Hey, sports and health fans, Coach Frank here, and I have one word for you: golf. Okay, I know I talk about golf a lot, but can you blame me? I mean, not only is it a great game that everyone seems to love to play, from pros to weekend hackers, but it also parallels what it means to be healthy, well, fit, and live life the way it was intended to be lived. And just to prove that I'm not the only health and fitness doctor who looks to golf for many parallels to living life at your optimum, I have a guest today who epitomizes that. Someone who has done way more on the golf course than I have, and who uses that success as a model for helping physically rehabilitate people and actually turning them into champions of their own game, even if that game is getting through the workday or nailing good workouts. I'll spare you the details for the interview, but this is one that you don't want to miss. Even if you're not into golf, whatever game you play and whatever you consider your playing field, you're going to get something unexpected and useful from this interview. So park it right there and turn up the volume, because we're shooting for a hole-in-one on wellness and fitness in this pivotal episode of the show. And I'll bring it all to you right after this.
Game on, sports, fitness, and health fans, with another episode of the Sporting Good Posture Digital Radio Experience. Gear up for Coach Frank's advice from the sidelines as he helps you crush your game, no matter what sports, health, or fitness game you play.
Hey, this is Coach Frank. I'm sporting good posture. What are you sporting?
Hey, Coach, what do you got for us today?
Welcome back to another episode of Sporting Good Posture. This is your host, Coach Frank. Dr. Frank Margella, to my patients at Ideal Health and Wellness Center. You know, I didn't continue sports professionally after my school years, but I wouldn't trade my history for anything. Being a doctor of chiropractic and working with people to make them champions in whatever game they play has been super fulfilling, and enabling people to see and achieve potential in themselves they didn't even know they had, and thereby design has been better than winning the Stanley Cup, the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the PGA Championship combined. And speaking of the PGA, my guest today is a doc just like me, who actually has an extensive background in golf, one which will not only help you out on the links, but on whatever your personal golf course is. And I'm going to really rake him over the sand trap to get the dirt on how you could be living more optimally. It's very exciting, and I'm going to introduce him to you right after this short message.
Where do you carry your stress? Whether you carry it in your shoulders, hold it in your neck, or feel it in your back, it's usually not chronic, but it's always annoying. Carrying stress isn't normal at all, but how can you know for sure how the stress you carry can be hindering you? The answer is the Advanced Postural Impact Screening at Ideal Health and Wellness Center. Chiropractic studies have revealed that posture is more than just how straight you stand. It measures spinal and skeletal support of every body function. Poor posture reveals trouble areas in your basic structure, interfering with body function, leading to pain, discomfort, tension, sleep trouble, and even digestive issues and allergies. There isn't a body function that isn't potentially at risk. Dr. Margella conducts the Advanced Postural Impact Screening to trace back postural issues to their origins, which often have been accumulating over your entire life, to find the real reasons things haven't been working their best. And that means everything when you're trying to reach your ideal performance. See where the sources of the stress you carry lie, and find out what you yourself can do about them. Call Ideal Health and Wellness Center at 615-567-6683 now.
My guest was a multi-sport athlete, first introduced to golf in high school, and he's a self-taught player. He attended the University of Tennessee at Martin, graduated cum laude in 2008 with a BS in cell and molecular biology, served as the mascot, Captain Skyhawk for UTM Athletics, attended Logan University in Chesterfield, Missouri for chiropractic, and graduated in 2012. He completed the Sports Science and Rehabilitation MS in 2013 and joined Jackson Chiropractic from 2012 to the present. His private practice focuses on spinal correction, utilizing a multidisciplinary approach. Since 2017, he's worked with Alumni Football USA as a regional coordinator for full contact alumni football games. In 2021, he developed a continuing education course, The Golfer and Their Spine, which is aimed at giving introductory knowledge to chiropractors about the biomechanics of the golf swing, mobility and flexibility screening, and exercise protocols, and the role that they can play in health and performance of the recreational and competitive golfer. I had the pleasure of taking his seminar back at the end of 2021, and I really learned a lot for myself as well as my patients, and I was able to immediately bring that into my practice that following Monday and set everything into motion and start using his advice not only to help my game, but also the game of all my patients. So I'll let him tell you his story here. And so please welcome to Sporting Good Posture, Dr. Jake Doster. Welcome to the show, Doc.
What's up, brother? How are you?
Good. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And for the listeners out there, Jake is also, he's a chiropractor and he's an avid golfer. And I took his seminar last year about golf and kind of the way to really help my patients, but also even help myself. So I was a little a little selfish taking that seminar because I really wanted to get better on my own golf game. So what kind of drove you into doing golf initially, but then also doing it now as a seminar that you do multiple times a year?
Well, there's a lot of different things that came into that. One, I've always played. So I picked up the game at 14. So I had an older brother and an older cousin that got into the game. I was not a country club kid, so I did not grow up with parents that played and things like that. So my cousins and older brother, if they did anything, I wanted to do it too. They picked up the game, so I quickly had my mother pick me up a set of clubs from a yard sale, and so I started swinging them pretty early. I always played sports, so it was just, hey, what's something else you could throw in the bag to do? And it just so happens that, with my age, that aligned perfectly with the rise and dominance of Sir Eldrick Woods. So, it's kind of one of those things that it really pushed me into the game. And I had friends that played. So I had friends that were pretty good golfers. And so I played with them and started playing in high school, just taught myself how to play. I thought, well, I can hit a baseball. I can hit a ball that's sitting still, That's how simple I had it in my mind. But as you know, it's not that easy. But as far as the continuing education part of it, man, I got really tired of sitting through really boring seminars. That was kind of one of the things that drove that the most. And after seeing a few patients in my office with golf injuries, I just thought, I think there's something here that we can do to kind of let both of those worlds meet a little bit. Golf is one of those things that if you don't play, you don't understand the mechanics of what it takes.
Right.
Everybody grew up playing basketball or baseball or softball, even in school, recreationally. Even if you didn't compete in school, you played on the playground or things like that. So it's easy to kind of connect with those things. But golf is a different beast. It's a different monster to tackle. It's one of the most complex movements, I believe, in sports.
I agree.
We like to think about it simple, with being a steel ball. The ball is not moving; it's sitting there, and you just have to hit it straight. Man, it's more complicated than that. And I wanted to be able to deliver something simple for the everyday doctor to be able to see patients in their practice. As you know, the statistics on who we see, majority of those, it's getting younger, but the majority of our patients are over 45 years old. And so what do guys, mostly men who have more money, disposable income, they play golf. You're starting to see statistically that change some. We're seeing a lot more women join the game of golf. We're seeing a lot more younger kids join the game of golf, especially because of COVID. COVID was a blessing to the golf industry in that way because it drove a lot of people to the game. So you're seeing more patients in your practice, but how do you take something simple and be able to apply that to a very complex sport? There are things out there that you can take to learn how to treat golf athletes. Titleist Performance Institute being kind of the leader there when you think about golf and health education, but that's not for everybody. You got to be a golf nerd to really take TPI. You got to love golf for that. And so not every doc is as hardcore as maybe you or I with that. So that was the goal, is how do we make a seminar that's fun, that we don't sit, and dread going to or sitting through, and then how do we deliver something that's applicable to our practices?
Well, I appreciate you doing that, because last year when I went to your seminar, it was honestly the best, or one of the best I've ever gone to, because you got to do all the instruction part and actually then play and apply that immediately, and really even do the stretching that you showed at the seminar. It's something I took right into the office on Monday and started working with my patients on that, and really gave me a good guideline on what to do. And it really made me think too about just me as a baseball player growing up. I just started swinging a club, and, which I was pretty good. I could hit it, but definitely my mechanics were wrong, because it is a different kind of setting for the mechanics of golf compared to baseball. So there was actually a lot of mistakes in my swing, which actually were causing me injuries, wrist injuries, elbow, shoulder injuries that I couldn't figure out because I didn't know what I was doing. So one of the mistakes I made was not getting lessons, not really getting some good instruction. If you're going to delve into golf, that's one of the things I recommend is actually taking lessons, not just taking advice from somebody on the course, like actually taking some lessons, because I could have avoided some injuries on my own self by just doing that.
I see that a lot. You can't apply one directly to the other, though most baseball players can switch over pretty easy because there is a lot of similarities to that, but it's not the same. I mean, I think that's kind of where you lose it, is if you don't realize there are some differences. I wish I could go back and give myself this advice, but any new golfer, a couple lessons will do you good to set a foundation for the mechanics of what you're trying to do. The best practice, the best strides you can make with a golf swing at the beginning are made when you never hit a ball, because you're setting movement patterns that you want to ingrain into that muscle memory that our bodies can achieve. And then you get to that level, not like the pros, but you get to a level to where thoughts leave, right? And you act and you don't think. And that's a weekend golfer's worst nightmare is that 5 inches between your ears, right? That's what you got to get done. And so laying a foundation is critical for playing the game, but also for playing the game longevity, to keep a healthy body so that you don't break down and cause those injuries that keeps you from being able to compete or play with friends.
So speaking of some of those injuries, I know you've started treating more golfers. What kind of injuries are you seeing the most in your practice? Right
now, last couple of years, it's low back.
Yeah.
Because of the chase of distance, right? That's been the distance chase, right? And so everyone wants to swing out of their shoes. And so without the proper mechanics, what that turns into an upper body swing that forces rotation through the lumbar spine. And rotation doesn't occur in the lumbar spine.
Right.
Not to the degree that we want it to, right? So if you're going to force those joints into that mechanic, you're going to create issues. So, facet syndrome is a big one. You're just going to get those achy facets that bother you, and you let it calm down and you go back in and, you hammer away trying to hit the ball as far as you can. One of the things that's interesting, I've noticed, this is actually an injury that I've dealt with the last couple of months from playing more often. And as I've continued to, I think we're hitting a plateau after continuing to improve, is actually some dysfunction on the lead foot.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So when you finish and you actually shift your weight correctly through your downswing. So in our backswing, we're about 80% of our weights on the back foot. And when we finish, we're about 60% of weight on the front foot at impact. So once we make impact with the ball, you should finish with that left leg straight, weight on that left leg. And most of the weight will be on the outer portion of that lead foot if you finish correctly. So when you're not conditioned to do that and suddenly you force yourself to do that, one, you start hitting flush iron shots, and two, you're going to wear that joint and it's going to be sore. So that personally, I experienced that 2 weekends ago. We actually went and played up in Missouri on the way to a seminar in St. Louis, and I played a really good round of golf. I had the other two docs that worked with me and said, "Oh my God, I've never seen you hit that way before." I said, "Well, I'm just glad there's witnesses." So I played really well, but I felt it because I used my body in a way that I wasn't used to. So even when you do things right, you're going to put stress on the body a lot of times in a way that you're not expecting. And so it takes endurance, just like any other muscle, any other movement. It takes doing that in repetition to build that so you can repeat that and it not cause injury. Yeah.
I was actually having some of that too on my lead foot, and my foot was like cramping up after the round, but I know that I was improving because my shots were going better, but it's like a new problem that you start developing.
Yeah.
Because you have that foot pain now, and I would get adjusted, but I think some people might not even think about that. There's a lot of small bones in the feet, just like there's a lot of small bones in the wrist. They could easily move out of position. So when you're putting that pressure on that front foot and maybe even rolling it a little bit, you can definitely, the cuboid's on the outside of your foot, for those of you that don't know where that is, and it can definitely drop down or move out of position along with some of the metatarsal bones, even your talus, which is right by your ankle joint. These are the bones that I was actually starting to have some pain in as well. I was noticing when I was swinging incorrectly for a while, I was getting a lot of wrist problems, especially I'm a right-handed hitter. So I was almost swinging like a baseball, so that my right arm was doing too much. My left arm wasn't doing enough. And I started getting too much rollover on the wrist. And I was getting a lot of problems in my wrists, especially on my right hand. So that's something that I was able to start correcting more by your seminar and some lessons I took, because I was like a baseball, you kind of roll your wrist a little bit, but you can't really do that in golf.
For any golfer, understanding what the sequence of a golf swing is, I think will help you improve your game. And it's not hard to find that information. There's simple YouTube videos that explain those things, what a kinematic sequence is, which how your body is supposed to move through the golf swing. And when you start looking at where your injury is, say you are a player and you deal with a chronic injury, and you start looking at where that injury is and compare that to what we see with the kinematic sequence, it's pretty easy to see where that breakdown is. And then you can go to a teaching professional and say, hey, how do I get out of this? A couple of drills, you work on those things, and you can actually work on those things pretty simple, but it's just knowledge. What is the game? And honestly, if you look at the professional game of golf right now, what has taken it by storm is analytics, right?
Yeah.
And we saw that with DeChambeau, who broke all that stuff down, looking at with, the strokes gain with shot length, which they're using with the PGA now. Strokes gain tells you where you need to work on your game, and you can relate that to where you're having injury, because if you're trying to overcome something, I equate that to chasing distance, because we're seeing that right now. Why are we going to wear our bodies out to hit the ball 12 yards further when the strokes gain is only, 86% of the people who gain 10 yards or more from one season to another, 86 will gain 0.1 strokes gained off the tee.
Oh, wow.
So that means that's 0.1 stroke. So you busted your butt to hit the ball 10 yards further and might have injured yourself there, when all we have to do is look at strokes gained and approach.
Yeah.
And if you're 10 feet closer to the hole, your strokes gain is like 1.6. So where are you going to put your time? And that all relates to injury too, because we got one body, we got to take care of it. So if we're going to put stress on our body and we're going to spend time practicing, we got to put it where it counts. Right. And so we definitely see that with injury as it relates to improving game. Talking about wrist, that's very common for baseball guys, right? Or any overhand, because we compensate so much with hands. Everything's hands. And when you've hit a baseball for so long, you really feel those hands through a swing, especially if you're, a player who likes to hit opposite, or like, I like to pull the ball. That wrist position you feel. And when you switch to golf, a lot of those hands and wrists are dead. When you impact the ball, they shouldn't be moving one another. It's all the process that happened before that. And so injuries can be abundant through the golf swing. It all depends on where you break down in that kinematic sequence to where the injury will occur.
I've dealt with personally now, and after taking seminars and lessons, I realized the mistakes I was doing. But also, when we did the seminar with you, we did some stretching techniques before we went out on the course. And I tell you, I couldn't even do some of them very well. And I consider myself in decent shape, so it just goes to show. And I get adjusted all the time. I do acupuncture, massage, and everything. So, and I couldn't even do all the stretches. And I could tell, my thoracic mobility wasn't as good as it should be. My shoulders, even my lower body. There's a lot of things that I've been able to work on now, really, for the last 6 months, because I found that those stretching techniques, just going out and doing that before I go out on a course, really have helped me get better prep for it.
Yeah, mobility is key. If you have to boil it down to one thing, if you're going to work on one thing with your golf game, it's mobility. And if you want to break that down further, hip mobility and thoracic mobility. Mm-hmm. Hip mobility is absolutely number one. If you don't have mobile hips, you're going to be a pretty bad golfer.
Yeah,
because you got to overcome that with upper body. And when you overcome it with upper body, then we start trying to do all this stuff with our hands to try to make up for it. And their consistency goes out the window. And here's the cool part is, we all chase power. Everybody wants to hit the ball far, but the more mobile you are, power follows that.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. Yes. And the easy comparison is the Bryson DeChambeau debate. The guy beefed up to try to hit the ball farther when, there are guys that are half his weight that hit the ball farther, who didn't do that. You look at some of the longer guys, and they're very lanky, long, lean guys.
Yeah.
And that's who hit the ball far, because they have extensibility in their muscles, they have mobility in their joints, and that creates that upper and lower body separation that creates power, creates distance. We look at it too. Rory McIlroy's not a big guy, and he's consistently in the top 5 or 10 in distance off the tee every year on tour. And so if he can do it, then somebody else who has that mobility and flexibility can do it too. And on the flip side of that, if you look at a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, who just had shoulder surgery, had hamate surgery on his wrist, this guy's going and blowing and working hard every day. It's all he does is try to hit the golf ball farther.
Yeah.
Then why are you and I trying to swing out of our shoes to hit the ball far, right? His body is prepared for that, and ours isn't. And you wonder why on the weekends, or you go on a guy's trip, you play, 3 or 4 rounds of golf on a weekend, you come back, oh, my back's killing me, my wrists hurt. You wonder why. Well, your body's not set up for that success. So
yeah,
I think a lot of, with injury and with the game of golf in general, is tempering our expectations, right? Golf is interesting because when you watch the game on Sunday, watch the PGA Championship this weekend, when you watch that game, I could drive right now to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and potentially play where they played, right? Yeah. It's not going to happen. Southern Hills is not letting me on there to play. But you could do that. I can't drive to Madison Square Garden and play a pickup game where the Knicks played, right? So because of that, we set this expectation on what we can perform and do comparative to what we watch on the weekends. It's not realistic.
Good point.
And so as hard as those guys work to get their body mobile and in shape to play this game, and what do? We go and we hit a bucket of range balls before we go play. It takes more to be able to prepare ourselves for that and not expect injury. So it takes more on our end to be able to prepare for that and to get better and to keep ourselves from injury.
I've gone out now and I'll typically go like with my father-in-law and some of his friends and stuff like that. They're older, they're in their 60s or 70s. And they actually have a lot of good advice about really, not swinging out of your shoes, because here these guys are, I'm bigger and stronger, faster than them. I may outdrive them a little bit, but they end up beating me at the end of the day because they're just hitting it straighter, not swinging out of their shoes. They're very consistent with what they're doing. But they also told me, I'm coming out here once a week, once every couple of weeks playing. And here I am getting frustrated if I don't play my best game. And they're like, even the best players go out on a tournament. They practice every day and they'll have a bad tournament, or they'll look as bad as an amateur. And you can't get mad. You have to enjoy your time on the course instead of just nitpicking everything you do and worrying about exactly what your score is. Oh, absolutely. I mean, take the PGA Championship this weekend. If you watch, Justin Thomas cold shanked a par 3. Yeah.
It was awful. And it just lit my soul up to know he's human. And the guy wins the tournament. So,
and come back and win it. Exactly.
Comes back and wins the tournament. So absolutely. And really, when we think about golf as it relates to us as amateurs too, when you even step away from the mental side of it and looking more at the physical, it's a game that you can play till you die. Literally, you can play till you die. And so it's important that as you play, you do so and keep your body healthy to be able to do that. Like I said, mobility is key in that. And the cool part is that there are processes out to be able to identify where you're lacking mobility. And that's one of the things that I teach in the seminar is very simple screening techniques for that. And it's a great way to be able to do that with all of your patients. And that's one of the biggest things with my course that I focus on is, hey, we can identify these things very quickly. And once you identify those, you're literally giving your patients ammunition to improve their game and to be able to play longer, because you're going to remove that risk of injury by getting those mechanics correct.
Yeah. And that's what I like the most. You had that mobility and flexibility screening, and you showed us some things that not only that we could do, but show our patients how to do to kind of overcome some of their, inflexibility or lack of motion or just previous injuries they may have. You really gave a lot of those good points for that. And I've been able to share that with a lot of my patients. And I'm sure that you have as well, and will continue to do that. when people go out on the course and they're seeing some of these changes that are happening, do they come back and kind of talk to you about it? Are they able to kind of say, well, I've had these other injuries, but now I'm seeing some differences after applying some of these things that you're talking about?
I think the biggest thing, it's also when someone comes back and say, hey, I had a pain-free round, because
that's huge
you
too.
don't want to suffer when you're doing something you enjoy.
Yeah.
I've got several gentlemen that I treat that are retired. They're 3-4 rounds a week guy. And so their swing speeds are lower. And so a lot of theirs is like, I don't hurt when I play golf as much. I can't walk to and from the cart. I can't walk, so you can run through some of that stuff where even the ability.
Putting the shoes on.
Yeah, putting their shoes on. So their golf game is one of the things that can negatively affect their day-to-day because they're going to do that. They're going to do that thing. But yeah, changes are huge. I think one of the biggest things that I had a junior player come in and he's a kid. So what do kids do in 2022? They play video games, right? So it's Fortnite and all this kind of stuff. And so he's kind of at night doing this stuff. And then he goes out and practices golf in the day and competes in junior competition. And as a 14-year-old kid, you should have pretty good swing speed and flexibility through your mid-back. And when you don't have that, you have a tendency to block shots because you can't rotate. Then you have a tendency to suddenly pull shots because you overcompensate because you can't rotate. And so the ability to get that kid through simple chiropractic care. I mean, we didn't do anything out of the ordinary, just straight manipulative adjustments and getting mobility in his mid-back again. Suddenly it's like, oh, hey, I'm drawing the ball. I'm putting a little baby draw on it. I'm not having to fight. I'm not having pain in my back anymore. So like, again, mobility is key, and just being able to get movement there. That's the most important thing. The greatest player in the world exhausted every bit of chiropractic care he could and used that. And that was one of the big keys. And he attributed that. Tiger said, chiropractic goes with me everywhere I go, because if not, I can't compete. And obviously, if you put your body through what he's put his body through, only so much can help. But there was a reason why he was so dominant on his run. And he several times has attributed chiropractic care to part of his success.
Yeah, he was huge into that throughout, the 90s and early 2000s before he had some of those major injuries. But yeah, when you swing that hard, at some point, your body's just going to break down no matter what you're doing to maintain it. But it was amazing what he did over that 15-year period of time where he just was dominating everything. And then, he had that ACL injury and he still finished that round and won it. I forget what championship that was, but
I think that was the PGA at Oakmont, if I remember. I might be off, but I believe that's what it was. I actually covered that in my seminar. He steps funky off that hill.
Yeah.
And rotates that knee. And
when he was celebrating, right?
You could see it on his face instantly. Yeah. Oh, no. But I mean, that happens. And you're going to, golf is one of those weird things that I've had my worst injury playing golf, stepping down into a bunker, and rolling an ankle. I've had that happen. So you're playing on an uneven surface. You see
jumping off the golf cart before it stops moving. I've done that too. And I'm like, oh, that didn't feel too good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that amateurs are especially with playing with golf carts all the time, that's another injury that can happen as well.
The Happy Gilmore swing, I'm sure, has taken a few low backs down in its day.
Yeah. So you mentioned about Tiger Woods is your favorite player, Kevin Kisner and Max Homa you mentioned too. Have you seen them play live at any events? I
have not gotten to see. I've never seen Tiger play live, but I'm hoping to see Max and Kiz play upcoming at the FedEx St. Jude, the WGC event down here at TPC Southwind in Memphis. I'm only about an hour and 20 from there. So I've got actually a few patients who are volunteers there. They've done that for 20 something years. So I think I got some passes to get in. So hopefully,
that's awesome.
Hopefully going to go down and watch Max and Kiz play. You want to talk about a beautiful golf swing? Watch Max Homa swing a golf club. It's incredible.
That's cool. I've never been to any major events. So have you been any majors before, or any big events? Any big golf tournaments that you watched?
I've not been to a major. My name goes in the hat for Augusta every year, but I have yet to be selected.
And then what about, have you played on any of the famous courses?
Actually played last year, was able to play at TPC Southwind.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
And so they're just different. You can't describe what it's like playing on those. It's like putting on a lumpy ice rink. You know, it's incredible. You play one of those courses under those conditions and you see just how incredibly talented those players are and what they're able to do, especially if you look at what they do in a major. It's insane. Some of these setups that they have, it's crazy.
That would be an awesome thing to go to that course over there in Memphis and see them play coming up. Is that next month, you said?
It's actually in August. It's the weekend of my birthday.
Oh, so even better. Nice birthday present for you.
I've been able to weasel that as my birthday gift to head down and watch them tee it up. You know, one of the things that's really crazy, if you want to see a really good mechanically sound golf swing, Kevin Kisner is a great example of that. He literally is the poster child for spine angle. When you look at him from the back, when he swings, it's so consistent. It's so smooth. You're not fighting that. And it reminds me a lot of longevity of players. If you think about some of these players who have played for a really long time, they have these nice, smooth swings because they're relying on their mobility to give them power. And the best example of that is Freddie Couples. Freddie Couples has played forever, and his game has not fallen off a lot.
Yeah, you're right about that. He still looks very good when he swings.
He does. It's smooth. It's nice and easy. And for the amateur player, we have to accept those limitations to our game. I see all of these guys on the weekend, and I see it. I even saw it when I do this seminar. You get a group of guys pop up there. It's like, we're playing from the tips, right? It's like, why? What? No, but why are you playing from the tips? The average handicap in the U.S. with the USGA, so that's handicaps that are actually registered and monitored by the USGA. It's about 2 million in the U.S. That's men and women both. You're an average handicap for men is 14.5.
Oh, wow.
For women, it's 27.5. And so
good. I don't feel as bad then.
Right. So that's average of people who keep a handicap are worse than a 14. So if you're worse than a 14, you should be playing what simply is the quote senior tees. They're not senior tees. They're just up farther. You should be playing between 58 and 6,000 yards, 5,800 and 6,000 yards. But we all go to the tips and we hit one right off the tee and we're, another 3-wood out. And we're like, well, why can't I shoot in the 80s? Well, that's because you're playing on a different planet. Most people can't do that. What's crazy, here's the other statistic that I looked at this yesterday. I'm working on a few new things to put into the seminar. It's estimated that about 24 million people tee it up at least once every year. And so if 24 million people, only 2 million have handicaps. Those other people don't care enough. You can imagine what their handicaps are. So
30, 40.
The truth is, if you're a sub-handicap player, you're sub-20 handicap, you're a good player.
Yeah.
You're playing the game at a consistent level. We're out there to have fun. So taking some of the pressure off ourselves would be great.
And I think people have to remember it is fun. It's meant to be fun. And it can be frustrating. And I've been there too, where I get frustrated because I'm having a bad day, not hitting things, but this isn't our job. This isn't something we do all the time. So we have to take that with a grain of salt, that it's more about the marathon, not the sprint, and not, swinging out of your shoes, hitting from the tips where you're going to be short on your shots or hit it in the woods. And then you're not able to really recover from that. And then your day just goes sour from there.
And if you don't have a body that lets you go out there and compete, it's no fun anyway. And so it all ties back to that. Yeah, you're there to have fun, but you gotta have mobility and be able to perform this action that you're wanting to do, or else the game is going to pass you by anyway, and you're not really going to be able to enjoy it at all.
Well, I really appreciate you talking to me today and sharing some of your insight on that and talking about, your seminar and everything. So how can people get in touch with you? Do you have social media that people can get in touch with you, maybe ask questions?
For patients that live in my area that maybe want to get checked out and have their swing analyzed and look at some of these things or have injury and want to say, hey, is this something that I'm doing? Is it mechanical based? They can always contact me, contact our practice. Our number here is 731-664-8000. You can find us on Facebook, Jackson Chiropractic in Jackson, Tennessee, or you can reach out on our website. It's jackson-chiropractic.com. If you're another professional, if you're a teaching professional, maybe you're new to it, if you're a youth golfer, I invite anybody to come to the seminars. It's open. If anybody wants to come, you're more than welcome. There's a lot you can learn, just like you did, Frank, of like, oh, I can take this and apply this to me, not just teach it to somebody else. Yeah, the website is golfspinece.net. So that's where you can go to check out the locations of the seminars. We've actually expanded this year, so we're going to do seminars all across the state of Tennessee.
I love taking your seminar. I'm looking forward to try to do another one this year.
Yeah, August, we're going to be down in Memphis at Miramichi Golf Club. Miramichi was kind of famous for a little while because if you remember, Justin Timberlake bought the old, I think it was Grand Valley Country Club or something like that, and dropped a lot of money into that facility. Now it's locally owned. He actually doesn't own it anymore, but it's a really nice track.
I got to say, I got a lot out of your seminar last year, and I know that all the other doctors I went with did as well. And it's definitely useful. Like I used it right when I walked in on Monday morning at my office, not only for my patients, but for myself. So I appreciate what you're doing out there, and you're making the seminars at least fun and exciting, where most of them you just sit there and you're just like, oh, when is this thing over?
Yeah, absolutely. I told myself I never wanted to have a seminar where you wished you were somewhere else, or that you felt like I was berating you for not practicing exactly how I practiced, because that's a common theme in continuing education as well.
Yeah. So you really gave us the freedom to add this however much or little that we wanted to use, for ourselves and our patients. And I appreciate you doing that. And I look forward to taking another seminar with you.
Absolutely, brother. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Spread the word. Everybody's got to move.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
So again, follow Dr. Jake on social media and check out his website. You'll be able to see what he does with the seminars and look at where he practices. If you're in the Jackson, Tennessee area, I highly recommend seeing him. If you're in more the Nashville area, definitely come and see me. I took his seminar and I love teaching about the golf aspects that he teaches and really relaying the information that'll help you be a better golfer and create less injuries and have more fun playing the game. So if you're out there golfing, whether you're a novice or you've done this for a while, there's always improvements that you can make to your game. And there's typically injuries that come along. Just no matter how good of a golfer you are, there's always ways to improve and really check out what you're doing with your spine. The first step is just kind of looking in the mirror and just kind of seeing if your body just looks unlevel. And the second step is if you're out on the course and you just feel some aches and pains every time you play, and you might have the same chronic aches and pains every time you go out to shoot, just check them out. Just see what's going on as far as where the pains are coming from and take note and see if it's affecting your game. If it is, reach out to me. That's where I come in, and that's where I can help you improve your game and really get you on the track to shooting better, having better flexibility, and really enjoying the game of golf more, because that's what it's all about. Going out on a Sunday afternoon and having a good time with your buddies or just with your family and taking some time away from life to enjoy yourself. So you want to make sure your body's in shape to do that. And we talked about a lot of things today that can get in the way of that. So come by my office and get checked out. You can contact me at 615-567-6683, or you can DM me on Instagram or contact me on Facebook at Ideal Health Wellness Center. Tell me what's going on, and I'll tell you what I think. Remember, the coach's door is always open. I'm sporting good posture and playing better golf. How about you?
The Sporting Good Posture Podcast is a broadcast wellness production powered by Ideal Health Wellness Center. All content copyright 2021. All rights reserved. Executive producer Frank Sardella. Coach Frank appears courtesy of Ideal Health Wellness Center in Franklin. For more information, visit sportinggoodposture.com and follow Coach on Instagram at sportinggoodposture.
Not one Back to the Future reference in this episode, which is actually kind of a record. I can't believe it. All right, cool. So let's just read the bio, and then so please welcome to Sporting Good Posture, Jake from State Farm. Jake, welcome to the show.